So first off, our general thesis is that it's good to have many layer twos, and that we're actually moving into a world where there are going to be many layer twos, and they're going to kind of work together to scale Ethereum. And the place that this comes from is that, again, the cost of using those applications on Ethereum is too high. And what having many layer twos gives us is it basically gives us more room to run more kinds of applications and keep them low cost. And so I think first and foremost, we don't really think about this as like base or other things. We think about base and other layer twos like Optimism, like Arbitrum, like Polygon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Wolfson, the host and founder of Web3 Deep Dive Podcast. Web3 Deep Dive Podcast focuses on real-world Web3 use cases to help you better understand how Web3 is being applied today and how it may be leveraged in the future. If this sounds interesting, I encourage you to subscribe, like, and share the content that you're seeing today to help spread the word about Web3. I also want to take this time to thank the sponsors behind Web3 Deep Dive Podcast. Wursta is producing Web3 Deep Dive Podcast and is a global technology consultancy agency with headquarters in Austin, Texas, and Quito, Ecuador. Wursta works with enterprises to help them make better technology decisions for their businesses. I also want to take the time to thank Banksa. Banksa is a leading crypto infrastructure payments provider. Be sure to check out Banksa for your Web3 project today. And without further ado, let's get started with Web3 Deep Dive. Hey, Jesse, how's it going?
Going great.
Good. And hello, Deanna.
Hello. Good to see you, Jesse.
Hey, Deanna.
Cool. So here we are at VCon 2023. What are your thoughts on the conference so far?
Excited. Yeah, it's been awesome. We've been wandering around and meeting people and seeing a bunch of creators who we want to be with. So super excited to be here.
Awesome. And so, Jesse, you're the creator of Base, and that's Coinbase's new Layer-2 network, correct?
Yep. Ethereum Layer-2 incubated by Coinbase, gradually decentralizing.
Got it. Before we dig into that, just for our listeners that do not know what a Layer-2 is, can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. The way I like to explain a Layer-2 is over the last 5 years, there's been this creation of a new platform that's enabling new kinds of applications on Ethereum, which is global. It's accessible to anyone in the world, but it's very expensive still. So all these new kinds of apps have been built, things like better savings and stable coins so that everyone can access safer, more stable money, new tools for creators to earn money. But the problem with this new app store and the apps that have been built on it is they're still really expensive. So if you want to save, it's going to cost you $5 to save, and maybe you only make $50 during a work day. Or if you want to create something as a creator, maybe you want to sell it for $5, but then it might cost another $5 in transaction fees. And so we've had all of these incredibly powerful apps built over the last 5 years, but they aren't accessible to most people. And so what Ethereum Layer-2s are is they basically allow us to take all those apps that have been built over the last 5 years and make them 100 times cheaper. And so now that same savings product costs cents, and that creator tool costs cents. And that means that creators are going to earn more money. It means that everyday people are going to be able to save more money. And it means that more people all over the world are going to get access to this incredibly new powerful platform of applications that are going to change the world fundamentally over the next few years.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way of explaining Layer-2s. There are quite a few Layer-2 networks out there now. Do you know how many there are?
Too many to count. Yeah,
Right.
There's a lot. There's a kind of proliferation because we, again, have these incredible applications, but they've been too expensive. And so there's all kinds of people all over the world trying to figure out how do we make them cheaper? How do we make them more accessible? And that's created this opportunity for innovation, and a lot of people are leaning into that.
Right. What makes Base unique as a Layer-2? Because there are a number of Layer-2s out there. So what's different about Base?
Yeah. I'd say first off, our general thesis is that it's good to have many layer 2s, and that we're actually moving into a world where there are going to be many layer 2s, and they're going to kind of work together to scale Ethereum. And the place that this comes from is that, again, the cost of using those applications on Ethereum is too high. And what having many layer 2s gives us is it basically gives us more room to run more kinds of applications and keep them low cost. And so I think first and foremost, we don't really think about this as like base or other things. We think about base and other layer 2s like Optimism, like Arbitrum, like Polygon. In terms of where Base is kind of differentiated and how we think about it, our focus is really on making Base the easiest to use. This is both for developers and for everyday consumers. This comes from the last 11 years, 12 years of building Coinbase that we've been doing since 2012. And it's kind of translated into us building Base in such a way that for developers, they can just get started building applications, and it's going to be easier than any other platform. And then for users, and I think this is the really important thing, their experience of using apps on Base is going to be just incredibly simple. And instead of them having to come in and say, hey, I want to use this app, let me make a ton of decisions and have to do a bunch of kind of infrastructure setup in order to use that app, they're just going to be able to use the app. And that's going to be this kind of shift that makes it so instead of crypto being something that's just accessible to, thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, it's accessible to tens of millions or hundreds of millions or billions of people. And our goal, like the whole mission, the whole why behind Base is we want to bring 1 million developers and 1 billion users on chain. And we want to do it over the next few years. So obviously an ambitious goal, but I think it's possible. I think the time is now.
Yeah, that's ambitious.
It really is, but I love that. And I love that you said in the next few years. I'm thinking, how long is that going to take?
How many people? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Deanna.
No, I was just going to ask, where are you at in the development life cycle? You say it's going to be really easy to onboard.
And how many builders do you have so far on Base?
Absolutely.
I'll add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So where are we in the development life cycle? We launched the testnet in February. And so that's like kind of when builders can start building, but there's no real money on it. It's all kind of test money. We are working towards mainnet now. We'll be sharing more news about that soon. And we've seen, thousands, tens of thousands of builders coming to Base. It's been honestly incredible. The response that we've seen, hundreds of dApps who've already kind of built out in Ethereum and other layer 2s, they're coming to Base, they're deploying on testnet, they're committing to coming to mainnet when we bring that live. And the response overall, I think, has kind of blown us away. We didn't really know what to expect. Whenever you launch something, it's kind of uncertain. And I think one of the things about launching a layer 2 is that a lot of it is kind of bringing other people to come and build with you. And the way I like to think about it, it's kind of like throwing a party. And I've thrown parties my whole life. Like, that's just the thing that I love doing. But I will tell you, every single time I throw a party, the 4 hours before the party, I'm just sick, nervous, being like, is anyone going to come to our party? Straight up. Is anyone going to come? Yes, people said they were going to come, but is anyone going to come? And I think at this point, we have a ton of people saying they're coming. We have a ton of people who've already prepped some of the appetizers and sent them ahead of time. And so we know their appetizers are there, and we're just waiting to get to the mainnet to make sure that's going to be a really rockin' party. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be, but we're, coming down those final steps to get there.
And you said mainnet is later this year?
We're not sharing specific timelines on mainnet, but in the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking about the path to mainnet and sharing more about how we're going to get there.
Okay. I want to back up a bit because here we are, we just jumped in talking about
Deep.
layer 2s.
I love it.
Which is a little bit intimidating.
Uh-huh.
But let's back up a bit to talk about Coinbase.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've been with Coinbase for a long time, correct?
6.5 years.
Okay, 6.5 years.
It's a long time.
Coinbase is a cryptocurrency exchange based in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been around, for 7 years?
Coinbase was started in 2012. So we actually just hit our 11-year anniversary. I realized I said 12 years earlier, but 11 years. So it started in 2012, started really with a simple vision, which was we're going to make it incredibly easy for anyone to buy Bitcoin. Because back in 2012, that was the only thing that existed. There was no Ethereum. There were no smart contracts. There were no layer 2s. There were none of these apps that we're talking about. It was just Bitcoin, a new kind of money that is global and decentralized from day one. And then over the last 11 years, I think, Coinbase has really transformed. We've transformed from being just at first a place to buy Bitcoin, and then a place that lets you buy other currencies too, like Ethereum, like Litecoin, like the hundreds of other currencies that are listed on Coinbase today. But then I think really in the last few years, we've really transformed as a business to be much more a gateway to the on-chain economy that's emerging. And that's really about making it easy for people not just to buy and speculate in crypto, but also to actually use crypto, to use it for their everyday lives, their financial services, but also a lot of the new kind of emerging creator social use cases that are coming online. And so I really see Base as an extension of that part of Coinbase's history, where we've really been expanding out of just being an exchange, expanding out of just being about speculation and trading, and expanding into this kind of final stage of our secret master plan, as Brian likes to call it, which is really having millions of dApps or decentralized apps that billions of people are using every day and that are making their lives better.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you answered my question, because I was just wondering why a cryptocurrency exchange has a layer 2 network. Yep. And so you answered that.
Yeah, 100%. And I mentioned the secret master plan. That was something that Brian wrote in 2016. Brian Armstrong, our CEO, he laid out these 4 steps. He was first, we're going to have the protocols. That's like Bitcoin, Ethereum. That's going to have like 1 million people using them. And then we're going to have the infrastructure like exchanges, and that's going to have 10 million people using them. And then we're going to have the consumer interfaces like Coinbase and Coinbase Wallet, and that's going to have 100 million people using them. And then we're going to have millions of dApps that billions of people are using. And I think our observation is that kind of over the last few years, we've gotten stuck a little bit between phases 3 and 4. We have the protocols, we have the exchange, we have the consumer interfaces, but when you think about crypto, people aren't thinking, oh my God, there's millions of dApps that billions of people are using. They're still like, what do people use crypto for? And I think our thesis is that there's actually a bunch of those use cases already emerging, but that in order to accelerate that from tens of use cases to hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands to millions, we need better developer tools. We need better developer platform, and we need that developer platform to expose apps that are even easier for people to use. And so that is really Base. Like Base is what we call phase 3.5. It's the platform that's going to enable those millions of apps to come about, and that are going to bring the next billion people into the crypto economy.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the most common use cases that will be built on Base?
Oh man, so many. I think the thing that I'm most kind of excited about and focused on right now is creators and creator tools. I think if you look at what billions of people do every day right now on the internet, the most kind of social, the most engaging things are creator products, things like TikTok, things like Twitter, things like Instagram, where you have people all over the world who are creating content, whether it's music or videos or art, whatever it is, and then other people are engaging with that content. And today, that is primarily controlled by centralized companies. People are maybe making a small amount of money, but most of the value is captured by those centralized companies. They're locked in to those centralized platforms, and it's generally not the best experience for them or for the people who are actually engaging. And so I think our thesis is that over the next few years, what's going to happen is we're going to see the rise of incredibly powerful tools that let creators, again, musicians, artists, filmmakers, whatever it may be, take all that incredible creativity that they already have and put it onto platforms that are fundamentally open, that are fundamentally sovereign, and actually give them all of the value, and that don't lock them in to the kind of controls and ownership of a single centralized company, but instead put them on a level playing field with those companies and say, hey, now we get to share in the upside. And so for me and for Base, as we think about kind of coming to mainnet and our go-to-market, that's the thing for us. It's like we want to be giving tools to creators and also to developers and builders, but I think creators in particular to help them kind of start creating and to bring those next billion people on chain. And that's why we're here at VCon, because like where else to be other than here, to be meeting in person with those people to talk about this vision and to talk about how we can help them be successful.
Yeah, I mean, VCon is a really good spot for that. There are a lot of newbies here at VCon and crypto curious and Web3 curious people here. It's not, your typical crypto event where you've got the natives that know everything. And so I think it's a good place to start, educating and bringing more people in for mass adoption.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think it's been fun getting to walk around and, we've seen a ton of folks who, are on the more creator side. So for instance, I hung out today with Andre O'Shea, really talented artist, kind of digital art. He actually just collaborated with us on Base to create an NFT that we let people earn if they deployed a smart contract on Base. So kind of like when you learn how to write your first app, you could mint this NFT that had incredible art that Andre did. And so getting to hang out with him, and a bunch of the other people in his community here, that was really meaningful. But then, like you said, the like general audience here is folks who are like relatively new to crypto and are learning and are curious and are excited and have this kind of energy that I think honestly like Gary Vee brings that's kind of infectious, where it's just like, we're excited to be here. And for me, like, that gets me going. Like, I love that. I'm someone who thrives off of that energy and, excited to be here.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned incentives. I think you mentioned that word. So my question is, and I know, and I've asked you this before in a previous interview, there's currently no token associated with Base.
No token.
And last time we spoke, you said there are no plans for a token.
No plans for a token.
So tell me a little bit about why that's the case and how you are incentivizing, or how Base is incentivizing creators to build on the network without a token.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'll probably share similar thoughts to last time, but the TLDRs, I think over the last 5 years, we've been in a very kind of like token centric world of crypto, where we've seen a ton of people create tokens and then use those tokens to drive people from an incentive perspective to do certain things. And I think what that's kind of obfuscated is that over the last 5 years, we've also had a fair amount of lack of product market fit for the actual products that we're building. So maybe the infrastructure, doesn't quite work for the developers who are trying to use it, or the social apps like aren't quite actually social enough for the users to use it. And tokens can be a really powerful bootstrapping mechanism, but they also can really obfuscate, like, is there something there? Like, have we built something that's valuable? And so I think our thesis with Base is like, let's not distract ourselves with that noise. Instead, let's just focus on building a developer platform that people actually want to use, that developers want to use, that makes their lives easier, that empowers them to build incredibly powerful applications. And then let's focus on making it so users can actually access those applications through the Coinbase products and other wallets. And if we do that, like, that's going to have product market fit. The technology is finally ready. We can get it low cost enough. We can get it easy enough. We can get it secure enough. And that alone should stand on its own. And then in the future, like, we can figure out what goes from there, but like, that should be our focus. Our focus should be on building a product and a platform that works for customers first and foremost, and not kind of obscuring what's going on through some like economic incentive that doesn't actually connect to that.
Right.
Yeah, sure. I've got a couple of questions for you. So when you think about Base being incredibly easy to use, to me, the next frontier is Web 2 developers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do you think a Web 2 developer would onboard to Base?
That's a great question. It's a very timely question. When we think about 1 million developers, which is our goal in the next few years, that's a lot of developers. And if you look at the stats today, I think there's something like 30,000 developers who are building on chain on a daily basis, or not on a daily basis, but like on a monthly basis. And so we got a long way to go, right? Like 30,000 to 1 million is a large number. But then when you look at the number of developers worldwide, it's something like 30 million. And so we have 30,000 on-chain developers. There's 30 million developers who are off-chain and kind of Web 2. Like, we have to get some of those people over here. Obviously, we need to train new developers as well, but kind of bringing those people over and giving them this new skill set so they can build these new kinds of applications, I think is going to be a really, really powerful lever for increasing the number of useful things that are actually on-chain. And so that's a big focus of ours. On Wednesday of this week, we actually launched something called Basecamp, which is a whole curriculum that's purpose-built for already trained engineers to learn how to build on-chain products. And it's a full kind of lesson. It has videos, it has documentation, it has education. It's been something we've been working on for kind of 6 months internally, actually inspired by the observation that at Coinbase, we have primarily kind of Web 2 developers, and we need to help those people become kind of on-chain Web3 developers. And so we need to build a curriculum for them, which we've now kind of open sourced and made available to the world. As you go through that curriculum, you actually are going to earn kind of NFTs at every milestone when you have to kind of pass a test that shows that you kind of know what you're doing, that you've kind of learned the material. We've already seen a ton of people go through that, which has been really cool. But I think that's kind of our first step to training a bunch of Web2 developers. We are also looking at a bunch of other things that we can kind of layer on top of that. Think actual like in-person boot camps and training programs that augment the kind of async curriculum that we're creating.
That's really fantastic. I wonder too, for off-chain developers, there's so many different blockchains to choose, and it's challenging if you don't know to know. So how do you think that a off-chain developer would know to choose Base as their tool?
That's a good question. I think that the way we've built Base is we've built it as an EVM chain. And if you look at the kind of place where most developers are building today, by an order of magnitude, it's EVM. That's where there's the most developers, that's where there's the most transaction activity, that's where there's the most assets. And so I think that was kind of our starting point. It was like, hey, let's build a blockchain that has first and foremost kind of the most access to the people today, because that's going to be where also as new folks come in, they're going to naturally gravitate towards. So I'd say first and foremost, it was like align with EVM because that's going to be a place most people naturally gravitate towards. Beyond that, I think we have to do a really good job of kind of building that awareness and understanding in the broader ecosystem, both at the kind of top of funnel with things like Basecamp, and further down the funnel with being at VCon, with kind of doing broad-based outreach to help people understand how does Base fit alongside other EVM blockchains like Ethereum, like Optimism, like Arbitrum, and how can they be thinking about building for Base first and foremost. But again, I would also say that generally our perspective is that increasingly we're going to be in a world where there are going to be many Layer-2s, there are going to be many EVM Layer-2s, and that's good for developers to deploy across all of those. It's basically a way for them to reach more distribution, for them to reach more customers, and for them to get access to different kinds of ecosystems. And so I'd say as long as folks are building on EVM, maybe they'll start with Base, maybe they'll start with Ethereum, maybe they'll start with something else, but they're always going to have a home on Base, and that feels really important to us.
Definitely. So Jesse, I want to get your thoughts on something a little bit different, because I was just in Miami for the Bitcoin Builders Conference. A lot of people are building on the Bitcoin network now. Just out of curiosity, what do you think about that?
I think it's awesome. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2011, I believe. And, that was such a moment for me where I was like, whoa, this exists. There's money that's outside of the United States that's bigger than any of us. And I think over the last decade, we've seen that kind of promise as Bitcoin as money persist. But at the same time, we've seen the rise of things like Ethereum that have kind of brought new promises of like the idea of a global computer and the idea of these applications that are built on this kind of new global substrate. And I think as that's happened on Ethereum, Bitcoin hasn't kind of figured out how to integrate all of that. And that's been okay. Like Bitcoin still played a really important role as money, but I think there's also been this opportunity for Bitcoin to become more. And I think over the last 6 months, 12 months, for the first time, we're really seeing kind of Bitcoin lean into that. And in many ways, when you look at what people are starting to build on Bitcoin, it's smart contracts, it's roll-ups, it's Layer-2s. It is taking a lot of the lessons and learnings from Ethereum and figuring out how can we do these things in the context of Bitcoin. And in general, my feeling is that the more innovation we have, the better. The more block space that we have, i.e. the place where people can run these applications on this new platform, whether it's Ethereum block space or Ethereum Layer-2 block space or Bitcoin block space or Bitcoin Layer-2 block space, that's good for the world because it's new ways that applications can be created. It's new opportunities for developers to do that creation, and it's new opportunities for users to experience them. And so overall, it gets me super, super excited. I've been following it pretty closely, and I think that we'll see kind of what comes in the years ahead.
Banxa is the leading crypto on and off-ramp solution. Through an extensive and growing network of global and local payment solutions and regulatory licenses, Banxa helps businesses provide seamless integration of crypto and fiat for global audiences safely and compliantly with lower fees and higher conversion rates. For more information on how to integrate Banxa into your project or product, visit banxa.com. What are some of the biggest challenges with Layer-2s, and how can we combat those moving forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that probably the biggest challenge is still that they're too hard to use, both for developers. Although I think on the developer side, it's getting easier and easier. Like a lot of the infrastructure is supporting Layer-2s out of the box on Base. Like, in testnet and mainnet, we'll basically have every developer tool that exists on Ethereum supporting Base out of the box. I think on the user side, though, today, the experience of using an app is still like, okay, first I need to get a wallet that supports this layer 2, and then I need to pick that this is a layer 2 I'm going to use that app on, and then I need to get money on that layer 2, which requires getting money from my Coinbase account to Ethereum, and then bridging from Ethereum to the layer 2, and then I can finally do the thing I want to do. And that's 20 steps too many.
That sounds complicated.
Yeah, literally,
Repeat it, please.
You say step number 2, and the person's eyes glaze over, and they're like, I just wanted to do the thing. Just let me connect with the artists that I want to connect with. And so I think the most important thing, and the thing that I am most focused on and that we are most focused on, is just reducing that from 20 steps to 0 steps, and making it so you can go from not having done anything with crypto to doing the thing that you want to do in the application that you want to do in less than 60 seconds without any technical complexity. That alone is our focus. I'd say beyond that, there's obviously a ton more work that we need to do on decentralization, continuing to ensure that Ethereum layer 2s kind of live up to the best of Ethereum in terms of decentralization, which is something that allows them to remain open and accessible and global in a fundamental way. I think that's super important. Obviously, there's a lot of complexity around security on chain, not just with layer 2s, but pretty much any blockchain. I mean, in many ways, building blockchains is more like rocket ship engineering than it is software engineering, because you're building these things where there's huge amounts of money at stake, and if you make one mistake, that money can kind of have bad things happen to it. And so I think continuing to kind of build those muscles around how do we do this really important kind of engineering that requires a ton of focus and carefulness and tools in order to make it safe. And then also, how do we build these systems in such a way that that safety can be more fundamental and can kind of provide guardrails for both users and developers to make it so they can't make mistakes, rather than just kind of expecting them to learn how to not make mistakes. I think that that's super important. And so ease of use, decentralization, security, those are the things that I'm most focused on.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming Basecamp, the educator, the tool that you just mentioned, does that go into detail there on how to keep L2 safe and all of that?
Yeah, I'd say I would think about the Basecamp curriculum as the 101 and maybe 102 curriculum today for smart contract engineering. So there's definitely a good chunk in there that's security, but also I would say we need the 201 on security fundamentals and the 202 on security monitoring. There's so much more that goes into building these systems, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to build tools that can abstract that away, and that's going to be kind of the work over the next few years.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. I want to get your thoughts on some crypto current events that are happening.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Speed round.
Yeah, speed round. This is my random bonus speed round. So Ledger recently came out with a service, I guess, for seed phrase recovery. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, I'm sure, did you hear about this?
I did hear about it. I've been traveling like crazy this week, and so I didn't have a chance to dig in. I saw that the high level concern was that Ledger kind of had access to the kind of key material of the keys on hardware, which could kind of pose the risk of them upgrading their software, which could risk the keys. I totally understand the concern. I think it's really important that we kind of, again, try and build systems in such a way where it's it's not that we trust people to not do things. It's instead that we build systems in such a way that they can't do things. And so I don't know about this Ledger situation specifically. And I generally think that Ledger has been like a pretty incredible, good actor in our industry for a long time, building wallets and security systems. So I generally probably give them the benefit of the doubt, but I think that's the mental model for me. It's like, how do we get towards that world where we have to trust less and we can really trust that, we can know that the systems can't be evil, not that they won't be evil.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think in order to bring in more users, we need more safety protocols in place. I think that crypto has to advance in a way to bring more people in rather than just like have it as is for crypto
100%.
natives. So I think these developments and what you're doing at Base, I think it's all great. So
yeah. It's a massive team effort, and we're not going to be perfect all the way as we go. Like, this is what happens when you're trying to literally rewrite the world from scratch on top of a new technology platform. But I think that, on a quarter by quarter, month over month basis, we're making incredibly fast progress. And this is one of the things that's the most exciting to me on a day-to-day basis is I was around, for the last 3 bear markets, and none of them are like what we're experiencing today. Like today, the number of developers, the number of organizations that are doing fundamentally innovative things and that are building applications that have real utility that like fundamentally make people's lives better is 1,000 times bigger than any bear market in the past. And that energy, that builder energy, I like to say that we were in a crypto winter, and now we're in builder spring. That is like so palpable, and it gives me so much like confidence and faith that even if the prices are down, the innovation is up. And like, we are coming out of this, and we are about to enter what is going to be the most incredible growth of crypto of any technology I think the world has ever seen. Because sometime in the next 1 to 2 years, and I'm not sure exactly when it will be, but sometime in the next 1 to 2 years, all of these pieces are going to just fit together. And you're going to have the low cost L2s, you're going to have the really easy to use wallets, you're going to have these incredible apps that have been kind of incubating for the last 5 years. And that's going to mean that for the first time, anyone anywhere in the world gets access to this new world of utility that they never had. If you're in Argentina or Turkey and you've had massively inflating currencies, now you're going to have access to a stable bank account that you can get a loan from, and that you can send money to your friends and family in other countries, and that you can spend really easily, and that you can trade really. Like, this is all going to fit together. And at the point at which this fits together, we're going to start having 20% month over month growth, or whatever it is, and we will not stop growing until literally every single person in the world is using crypto every day. And that's going to happen sometime in the next 1 to 2 years. So we're not going to get there in the next 1 to 2 years, but that growth curve is like inflecting. It might have already inflected. It's hard to say, but it's on the way to inflecting, and it will not stop once it starts.
Yeah.
So inspiring. I love that message. Builder spring.
Crypto winter, builder spring. What comes next?
Yeah. I agree with it, though, because like at the Bitcoin Builders Conference, to see people building on Bitcoin, they've been doing that, but now it's really gaining hype.
Yeah.
It's like all about building now. We're really seeing that in the ecosystem, and people are talking less about prices and more on just innovation.
That's what it's all about. This is like the best moment. The way I describe the builder spring is when the rest of the world doesn't know because they're so fixated on the prices, but anyone who's in it knows. And that's exactly how I feel. Like, if you're here, you look around and you see it and you feel it and you're like, whoa, we are on the precipice of this thing happening. And that is like magic. Like, there's no better feeling. And we've had it in the past, but it was always oriented around prices. Like, this moment is unlike anything I've experienced. In 10 years of working in crypto, this moment is unbelievably profound, because it really does feel like for the first time all of the pieces are clicking together, and we can have real utility that's incredibly easy to use, that's incredibly low cost, that fundamentally changes the world forever.
Feels like we're crossing a chasm.
We are. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're moving out of the early adopter phase, crossing the chasm. Exactly right.
I want to also touch on real quick utility. What utility do you find to be most important or most innovative also just for the future of Web3.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been talking about this a lot at Base and Coinbase with this whole upgrade the system campaign and update the system, where we've just really been trying to tell the story of, if you look at the way people use money today, in many ways that is like 50 to 100 years old. It's like, it takes you 5 days to move your money. You have to like call someone on the phone to move your money. You know, like if you want to send money to someone in another country, like let's say you're doing remittances to Mexico or something like that, you're paying on average $40. So let's say you work a minimum wage job, which tens of millions of people in the United States do. And that means you're earning $8.50 an hour and you're working 40 hours a week. That means you're making $350 to $400 a week. And then you're sending some portion of that back to your family, maybe $100, 25% of your salary, and you're paying $40. Like, that's just normal. Like, and when you say it like that, I mean, I feel myself getting heated because I'm like, what, like, can you believe that that's what we've all gotten accustomed to? But I think the thing that we feel is like, we are at this moment where we can upgrade the system, where we can say, hey, this system was built 50 years ago. It was built 50 years ago and it's not serving any of us. And we have an opportunity to use software, which we've already shown is this incredibly powerful tool that can create open and decentralized and transparent new systems. And we have the opportunity to make it so that same remittance, instead of costing $40, costs 10 cents. Like, that's what it will cost on Base. 10 cents. That person who was otherwise giving away 40% of the money that they were going to send home to their family will now give away less than 1%. Like,
it's powerful. It's extremely powerful. And I think that, you know, once it's ready to be utilized and use Base in that way for remittances, it's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
And it's going to impact a lot of people, not just within the United States, but everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a big one, like remittances, obviously, and kind of just basic financial services and the upgrade of the system that we're seeing happen all around the country and the world. Creators, we talked about earlier, like today, if you look at the way creators make money, they're a ton of intermediaries, you know, record labels, DSPs, all of these things that are basically saying, hey, like, you have to opt into our system and we get all the control. And with NFTs, it's changing, where now creators can actually publish their work, they can earn money from their work, and they're making more money, and they're having more direct, more connected experiences with their fans. That's a huge one. One that I'm really excited about and I've been working on for the last 2 years is we're actually building a local currency in Oakland that's powered by crypto. It's called Oak. We're going to be building it on Base, hopefully launching this summer. And we've been piloting it in farmers markets for the last 3 months. We have, you know, at the one farmers market where we're piloting it, we have more than 60% of all the merchants signed up. We've done thousands of dollars of transactions, lots of kinks still. But the whole idea is like, look, if we can create a local currency, that means that we can keep more of the value in our local community instead of having it seep out into the banks and into these like huge corporations that would otherwise extract from us. And so I think that's going to be another huge one, like giving local communities more tools to kind of keep that value inside and reinvest in the community. So I think we're still just scratching the surface, but those three to me are like alone. If we landed those, I mean, the world's changed.
Totally. I want to go to Oakland to try that out.
Yeah, you got to come.
Go to the farmers market.
Right now it's every Sunday. We're hoping we'll be able to launch that sometime this summer, the full currency, and hoping we're going to have a big party to celebrate sometime in the fall. So maybe we'll invite you to that one.
Cool. Maybe, definitely,
please.
Yeah. maybe, Rachel, we might invite you.
No, we would love to have you there.
I might have you on the podcast again.
we'd love to have you at that. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Cool. We're really excited. It's been a long journey, and I will say, like, there's still so much work to do. Like being in farmers markets every week, because I go to the farmers market, not every week, but like whenever I'm in the East Bay, I'm there. Man, we can still make these tools so much better.
We've got a great farmers market in Austin, by the way.
Yeah,
Just
we
throwing
do.
that out there.
I'm excited to bring this to Austin.
Yeah, we got to expand. Well, we've actually been working with ATX DAO, which is based in Austin, and we've been sharing notes and figuring out how we can work together and collaborate. So there's actually this really kind of all around the world, there are local citizens in their cities who are asking the question, how can we use crypto to make our city better? It's like in every city. Like Austin, New York, Miami, like Detroit, and Nashville, and we've just kind of connected with people, and everyone's sharing notes. It's all open source, and I think it's still early days, but it's coming.
Yeah. Wait, before we move on.
Yeah.
But a cryptocurrency was built called Oak in Oakland, and you onboarded 60% of farmers market merchants to start using it, and they're transacting. What was the effort that went into that? Like, how quick and easy was it to stand up?
So right now we're using USDC. So we don't yet have the local stable coin. We're building that. It's going to be built on Base. It's coming this summer. In terms of converting the farmers markets, we're in one farmers market. So it's 25 merchants probably, and we probably have about 18 of them onboarded. We've been doing that experiment for about 2 months at this point. And we started with 0. And so we've gone from 0 to 18 of them. We're setting them up with Rainbow and Coinbase wallets. We are printing out QR codes for them that have their wallet address. We're helping them offboard when they need to offboard. And we're basically just figuring out, like, how do we optimize this more and more? How do we make it really, really work for them? I think the point of sale systems still aren't there. Like, there's no crypto integrations into your Square terminal or into your Toast terminal. But there are ways around it. There's ways to make the experience work. And I think this has been honestly the most, like, exciting and inspiring thing about it is Oakland actually tried to do a community currency in 2009. We passed a law, we allocated millions of dollars of funding, and it couldn't be built. We started to go through the process of trying to get the debit cards to do the community currencies and getting people to accept it, and we wasted millions of dollars and the program never launched. And now it is a 2-person team, neither of whom are technical, funded out of a nonprofit that Coinbase has funded and a bunch of other folks have funded, who have pieced together infrastructure like Coinbase Wallet, like Rainbow, like USDC. We're going to launch a stablecoin in months. It's not taking us millions of dollars. We're reusing this infrastructure, this platform, these apps, to unlock something that 13 years ago, a whole city tried to do and allocated millions of dollars to funding and couldn't do. And what better illustration of the power of this technology? And now multiply that across every city everywhere in the world, where hundreds of other people are doing small scale experiments with these same tools and are iterating to figure out how do they change their local communities. And so I think that the power of that platform that's emerging is one of the things that's really it's kind of hard to understand. And I think especially for people who haven't been in environments where they've seen kind of products be built and the cost of building products and the cost of building apps and the cost of building currencies, it's profound what people are able to do in crypto right now with the tools that already exist. And it's only going to get more profound over the next few years as those products get better and better.
Yeah. It also shows that the industry has matured. The industry has matured greatly. We're ready. And I think it starts at the level of crypto-friendly states that are innovative, like Texas, like California, like Oakland, Berkeley, Austin.
100%. Yeah. And, California, I was really excited to just see that Matt Haney, who's a state assembly member, he just put out a really kind of forward-thinking bill on how California can support DAOs in a kind of fundamental way in our legislature. It was really well done, super thoughtful. I love to see that. We were actually just up in Sacramento talking with different assembly members in the California Assembly, and they were super receptive. They were so excited. They didn't know. Right. And this is, I think, the thing that we've seen. I've been in DC a fair amount recently, and then we were in Sacramento. And I think what we've seen is that over the last year, because there was all this kind of bad actor that had to get flushed out, who were mostly, or almost, not almost, were exclusively centralized businesses that were using a little bit of crypto and then just doing the bad things that centralized businesses have been doing for hundreds of years. But because that happened, the predominant narrative that policymakers have heard is like, oh, these people have been doing fraud. And they haven't necessarily gotten the visibility into like, yeah, there were the centralized businesses doing fraud, but then also there are thousands of these green shoots all over the industry, like Oak, that are changing the world and changing the United States and providing better outcomes for cities all across the country. And I think what we've seen is that when we just show people, hey, this is what's happening, they light up. They're like, whoa, that's not what I was told crypto is. Like, that's not what I thought we were talking about. And then they're engaged. And they're like coming. They were like, we're coming to the farmer's market.
Totally.
And like, can you write up a memo about this so we can share it with all of our staffers and so we can share it with the rest of the house? And we're like, heck yeah. Like, we want to help you understand. We want to show how these tools can be used for good because we want to work with you to create the policy clarity in this country that can support innovation. So
totally.
Gets me fired up.
I love it. And I'm happy to see maturity in the industry and bad actors being fleshed out.
Yep. It's all part of the process.
Cool. We're going to wrap things up.
Okay.
I mean, we could talk forever on this topic, but we're going to wrap things up. So Deanna and Jesse, any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Thanks
Jesse?
for having me. This is super fun.
I'm really excited about the policy work there. I wish we could spend another hour talking about that, because if California passes the laws for DAOs and otherwise, that means Texas will be close follow.
Well, Texas is working on a bunch of, I didn't mention them, but Texas is also working on a bunch of really forward-thinking laws. So I think this is the thing that honestly gives me the most hope about the policy situation in the United States. Like at the federal level, I think it's going to be okay. I think that policymakers are being really thoughtful and they're engaging, and it's taking time, but that they're heading in the right direction. But the United States has a governmental system where we have a lot of decentralization. And we have California, and we have Texas, and we have Florida, and we have Wyoming, and we have all of these states that are experimenting with crypto policy. And a lot of them are making really good decisions. Some of them are making not so good decisions. But that diversity means that we get a lot of shots on goal. Like, we get to see experiments, we get to see what works, we get to see what hurts innovation, we get to see what creates a fertile environment for innovation. And I think what that's going to lead to is it ultimately is going to lead to America retaining its position as the place that encourages and fosters innovation and creates an environment where entrepreneurs like Oak can thrive. And they can thrive in a way that helps their local communities and helps the country and helps the world.
Yeah. Jesse, that is an amazing take, because the people I've spoken to lately, they're all a little bit down on the United States and the policy here. And to hear that coming from you is really inspirational and hopeful. I know a lot of people that, they're saying they're going to move offshore, move to Europe because of the policies there and what's happening in the US. But to hear you say that is really, really inspiring. It's really important to hear that.
Yeah, and I'm not going anywhere. Coinbase was built in the United States for a reason, because we believe in this country, because we believe that this is the place where innovation can and will happen with crypto. And we're going to continue pushing and advocating for what's right and what we believe in. And we're confident that as we continue to tell the stories about how crypto is changing people's lives for the better, we're going to make a ton of progress with policymakers, and we're going to get to a great outcome that works for protecting everyday people and for creating an environment that works for everyone to innovate.
I'm all for that. How can people find you, Jesse, if they want to get in touch with you personally or just learn about Base?
Yeah, if you want to build on Base, you can go to base.org. Super easy, base.org. If you want to get in touch with me, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Jesse Pollak, JessePollak. You will not see this face. You will see my CryptoPunk. It has crazy hair. I have crazy hair under my hat. I won't take it off right now. But yeah, that's how you can find me on the internet.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you to Web3 Deep Dive's executive producer, Deanna Wursta. Thank you to Web3 Deep Dive's director, Alex Wilcox. And thank you to Web3 Deep Dive's producer, Mark Gammo. I also want to thank Donna Albo for providing the music for this podcast. And of course, thank you to the listeners for joining us for this episode of Web3 Deep Dive. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, and share so you can help spread the love and get the word out there about Web3 Deep Dive. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.